Well, as far as the negative goes, in order to get a reaction from your body, you've got to overload it. You've got to give it something it's not used to in order for it to react. And a lot of people concentrate very much, let's say, on the positive. You know, a bench press will be pushing. That will be the positive, and then bringing the weight down. That's the negative part of the rep. But a lot of people don't concentrate on that. They concentrate, okay, I've got the weight up, and I kind of bring it down. And you have different levels of strength. Actually, the positive is the weakest part of the movement. So you could fail on the positive part of the movement, but there would still be strength left in the negative. So in order to tax the negative, I tell people to slow the reps down on the negative phase so that you're taxing the negative part. And if possible, sometimes, mainly with machine movements where it's safe, you can do some extra negatives at the end of the set. So when you fail on the positive rep, there's still strength left in the negative, and a lot of muscle growth is triggered on the negative phase of the rep. That's where the muscle is damaged, more than the positive probably, and the muscle damage is what leads to growth. So you want to be able to fail on the negative as well. So slowing the negative down and occasionally at the end of the set doing some extra negatives is the way to do that, so that you're failing on all levels, positive, static, and negative. That's ideal. That's an ideal set. And because it's so intense, that's why I don't recommend doing a lot of sets. Just one set most of the time on the final set of an exercise is all you need when you're going to failure. Well, machines and free weights is an old argument, and for me it's not a relevant argument because they're both tools and they both have pros and cons, so I use both of them. The advantage of free weights is that the movement and the weight is going to follow the natural pathway of your body. We all have different structure, different mechanics, different lengths of limbs, different muscle attachments. So if I do a bench press or somebody else does a bench press, it's going to follow a slightly different pathway. If you were to watch it in a camera or a computer or something like that, it's going to follow the natural pathway of the body. So that's the advantage of the free weights. And most of the multi-joint free weight exercises, the majority of the stress is in the middle of the exercise. I call them mid-range exercises, so they're great for building size. And naturally, the body tends to function a lot of muscle groups together. So if you've got a free weight, you've got to also balance it as well and so on. So that activates more muscles sometimes. Then you've got machines. The disadvantage of the machine is, of course, it's on a set pathway. So it doesn't vary from one person to another. So the machine may or may not be ideal for you. So that's a disadvantage. The advantage is, yeah, you've got control with the machine. For instance, you can do extra negatives safely with the machine where you couldn't do it with free weights. And sometimes if you've got some injury, machine is useful to work around the injury and to isolate the muscle. For me, for instance, I was doing a lot of free squats when I first started because that's what everybody said you have to do to build big legs. And certainly they're the most exhausting and very productive exercise in the gym is a free weight squat. But unfortunately, I got injured and I kind of felt they weren't ideal for my structure. And I was kind of forced into using machines and experimenting with machines because I was injured at the time. And I found that I was getting better results with the machines and less injury risk. So most of my leg training was done with the machines. Leg extension, leg press, hack squats and so on. So the real answer is free weights are not better than machines. Machines are not better than free weights. They're both tools in order to put stress on the muscle. The body doesn't know if it's lifting a machine or a free weight. So I like to use both of those tools. Machines and free weights together I think is the ideal combination. Well, I'm well known for the fact that I tracked all my workouts. I can go back and I got all these old notebooks with little scribblings on the front and motivational quotes on the front and everything, where I wrote down pretty much every workout, what exercises I did, what weights I was using, how many reps I was doing and so on. This is a great tool for tracking your progress, And if you make a change to your training routine or you make a change to the order of the exercises, you can look back and you can look if you made progress in that period or not. And that way you can kind of, over the time, you can refine your workouts. Maybe you decided to train 4 times a week rather than 3 times, but you track it and you can see and you can monitor the progress. If you didn't do that, you'd kind of be guessing. Now I can go back and look in all my books and see, well, in this period I seem to make more progress because I was training more often or less often. So it's a great tool to track your progress if you make any changes to your training, whether this is beneficial or not. And also is a great motivational tool, because you can sit down, and I used to do this mental technique of kind of rehearsing my workout and preparing for the workout. So I could see what I did last week on legs. I did X amount on squat or leg extension or whatever. So I've got a goal for the next week, which is to try and beat the previous workout. Obviously you can't do this all the time forever and ever, you go through cycles, but it's there as a tool as well. And I used to have, every month I would write down all my maximums that I had achieved that month, and then I'll have goals for the next month and goals for the end of the year. Reasonable goals that were achievable, and this was a motivational tool when I went into the gym. Okay, I did 8 reps last week with 500 pounds on the leg press. This week I've got to try and get 9 reps or 10 reps. So it was a great tool to motivate me and give me a plan when I went in the gym as well. I think if you want to achieve anything, it's like if you want to achieve your goals in business, you need a plan. If you want to make a travel from A to B, you need a map, you need a plan to get there. So it's the same thing with your workouts. It's a great tool, it's a motivational tool, and it's a tracking tool to see what works for you and what doesn't work. Well, motivation is important because when you're going to the gym and you're going to push to 100%, which you need to do, after a certain point, okay, for 6 or 12 months you can make progress doing anything because your body's not accustomed to it. But sooner or later it gets accustomed to it. Then you need to push yourself into a zone which is not comfortable. So why are you going to make yourself uncomfortable in pain? Only if you have a motivation. So you have to discover what's your motivation and why you want this, what do you want to do, what do you want to achieve, and why you want to achieve it, and if this is important to you. And if it's important to you, then this is the motivation, and the goals are motivation. If you set yourself a goal and you write it down, and this month I want to achieve 5 kilos more on my bench press, or whatever, just use an example. But you have these goals to keep you motivated and keep going forward. If you don't really have a clear idea about what you want to achieve and how important this is to you, it's going to be difficult to make much progress. You need to know why you're going to the gym today, exactly what you're doing, and what's your goal of going to the gym that day, and why you're going to push yourself until you feel nauseous and you feel pain, because you want the end result. But not only, for me, it was not only about the end result, it was about mastery over myself. It was that I could push myself through this when part of me is saying, no, I don't want to do this because it's hurting, it's uncomfortable. So me, Dorian, I want the end goal, so I override that. So in order to do that all the time, you need some goals and you need some motivation, and this has to be your personal goals. Mine was to compete in bodybuilding and Mr. Olympia and so on, but everybody has to have their own goals, and they have to always be reminding themselves of what that is. And of course, when you're going to the gym and you're in the gym and you're training, you're not growing, you're breaking down and you're putting stress on your body. Then your body has to recover, and to do this you need adequate rest and you need correct nutrition. And of course, supplements can be a great help, and they've improved and developed tremendously since I was in the 80s, very basic supplements and so on. So the nutrition and the training is, and the supplementation, it all goes together. So the more perfect you can get each area, the better results you're going to get. But to make it in a short, you need to train efficiently, train very hard and very intensely, but not for a long period of time. Most people equate going to the gym and spending more time in the gym with success. But I can tell you, I won Mr. Olympia 6 times, and I set new standards at that point in as far as physique development and muscle mass. And I never trained more than 4 times a week, 45, 50 minutes a session. And I was a professional. That meant I didn't have another job. I didn't have many stresses that many people have. So most people would be more effective if they went to the gym only 2 or 3 times for an hour, but they put 100% into those workouts, both physically and mentally, and that's when you're going to progress consistently.